Welcome to the podcast. I am Jen Wilson, the Healing Rebel, and today I am going to talk to you about movement and why I love movement. So I love everything about movement. I love the fact that not only do our bones and our muscles and our joints move, but through our breath we have movement, through our blood flow, through our lymphatic system, and even our energy. I know that sounds a little bit woo-woo, but it exists. We are electrical beings. That's why they restart your heart with a to get that electricity going. And our bodies are constantly in a state of movement. So even if you are playing musical statues, there is always still movement. While you're alive, there will always be movement. Your heart is beating, the pulses are vibrating through the body. When you're breathing, the expansion and contraction of your lungs. And then when you do move, that then encourages that lymph flow. So there is no point while you're alive that you are ever completely still. And something that I want to talk to today and cover today is about how and why movement is medicine. So I wrote a blog post about this and just wanted to talk about it a little bit more, expand on it a little bit more. Your body has evolved for movement. If it hadn't, if it had evolved for us to sit still, we wouldn't have all the muscles that we have, we wouldn't have all the moving joints that we have. But society hasn't evolved for us to move more. Society has evolved to, I was going to say make our bodies sick. I don't believe that that's how society has intentionally evolved, but in the process of that evolution, the stillness that is created in our bodies is making us sick. With the invention of the car, washing machines, dishwashers, the supermarket where everything's under one roof, office jobs, Netflix, Amazon next day delivery and Uber Eats. You don't even have to get off the sofa to have a hot meal delivered to you. And all of these advances, all of these advantages and conveniences have become inconvenient for our body. We are moving less, and call it coincidence if you like, but we are sicker as a population. And what we really need to do is move a lot of our body a little of the time. What do I mean by that? I hear you ask. So we move a little of our body a lot. If you're on your phone, your thumb or your index finger is doing that flicky movement. If you are sitting at a keyboard or a computer, you're kind of hunched forward, the only thing that's moving is your fingers. So there's the very little parts of your body that are moving a lot of the time. Lots of people get repetitive strain injuries in their hands and wrists. Carpal tunnel is on the increase because people are sitting on the computers all the time. And there are more people with back problems, there are more people with joint problems, all because the muscles are not moving. So therefore they are what they call in anatomy atrophying, which means they're shrinking down in size. The joints are not being oiled. So every time you move, a fluid called synovial fluid gets released to lubricate the joint. If that's not happening, then the joint dries up. Then we start rubbing on the cartilage wears down, we rub bone on bone, it's really, really painful. And the muscles, because they have shrunk, they are not able to hold us up in the same way, which means that when we stand up, we're not standing up, we're standing down, we're standing into the joints. And then when we're moving, all the load is in the joints instead of in the muscles, which then puts more pressure on the joints, which then causes more wear and tear. And the phrase use it or lose it is really, really apt here, because if you're not using your body and your muscles start to degrade and deteriorate, that's going to leave you weak. And your bone density is going to be in decline, which is going to make you fragile and frail. And both of these together are going to leave you immobile. And then we haven't even taken into consideration then what that means for the lymph flow and the blood. So your blood carries nutrients around your body, it carries oxygen and nutrients all to the cells of your body and helps take away the waste. That then the lymphatic system comes round and scoops up the waste. And if you've listened to me talk about the lymphatic system before, you will know that the only two things that move your lymph is diaphragmatic breathing and movement. And your lymphatic system is your internal sewage system, which is your drain point for all the toxins. And it takes the overload that the blood isn't taken to dump into the liver, to dump into the kidneys for excretion purposes. So if you've got this stagnant blood and stagnant lymph, you're going to leave your body undernourished. You're going to have a highly toxic body because it's not able to offload those toxins. And that's going to just be the petri dish, doesn't matter, for disease. Simple thing that we can do is move more. And we don't need to do loads and loads of stuff. So a lot of people have this misconception that movement has to be exercise, and that exercise has to be heavy lifting in the gym, sweaty gym sessions, going out running in cold, miserable days. A lot of people have this really negative connotation with what movement and what exercise needs to be, and it doesn't need to be that at all. It can be as simple as, if you are sitting at a desk all day, every now standing up, walking around the room that you're in, doing some mobility stretches, rolling your shoulders out, moving your head around, opening up your chest, even just standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down 5 times. That's going to be much more beneficial than just staying stagnant all day long. You don't have to go and do a big gym workout. It's an activity or movement that is suitable for you. If you live in a house that have got stairs in them, go walk up and down the stairs a couple of times. Get your body moving, get the muscles stimulated, get the muscles activated. Yes, there is many benefits to doing a hot and sweaty workout. The sweat is part of a detoxification process. That getting your heart rate up is good for your heart. The strength training exercises is brilliant for building strong muscle, because as we age, once you've passed the age of 30, women lose about 3 to 8% of muscle mass every decade. So if you haven't done anything to build more muscle, then you're going to deteriorate even faster than if you can do something. But it doesn't have to be anything massive, like going and walking up a hill. That's good for muscle density, that's good for bone density. Swimming, excellent for your muscles, for your bones. Just walking is good for you. So what can you do? What can you do? That is the question. Has to be something that you like doing. It has to be something you enjoy doing. It has to be something that you know that you will do. Now, there was a study that was done in the United States of America, and they looked at behaviour and mortality in middle-aged and older adults. And I'm just going to jump through to the results of that. And what they discovered in that article, was that the longer you are sedentary, so sitting about, the shorter your life. And one of the outcomes for the best mortality improvements, so your longer life, a longer, healthier life, that's what's important. I'll jump to that in a second. So let me finish this point before I tell you the story. What they say is for every 30 minutes of sitting, you want to do 3 minutes of movement. From a productivity standpoint, so for people that still have jobs, there is a school of thought in the productivity world that doing chunks of focused attention work for 20 to 30 minutes is the most productive. So you could set a timer for 20 to 30 minutes and then get up and move for 3 minutes, and then go back in for another 30 minutes, up, move about for 3 minutes. If you're watching a TV show, every time the ad break comes on, get up and move around. As long as you're watching something that's not on a channel that doesn't have ads. Get up and move around, do something. Go to the toilet, go to make a cup of tea. Just get up every 30 or so minutes and move around for about 3 minutes. When you think of it in that way, it's not a big ask, really. It really truly isn't if you only have to do 3 minutes every half an hour. What is the big deal? What is the problem? Can you do that? Is that possible for you to do? And you know, if you follow the work that I do, if you listen to anything I say, you will know that I say, and that my teachers have said, and that what is very evident when you start to move your body more often, no system works alone. If you look after the health of one system, you're looking after the health of all the systems. Now I'm just going to jump back to my wee story that came to mind when I was telling you about the older adults there. I was speaking to one of my clients at the end of Pilates class this morning, and we were talking about aging and getting older. And she had said, you know, I used to want to get to a really old age, and she's going through some things with her mum, and her mum's starting to get dementia, and she can see the deterioration, and then she's thinking, I don't know if I do want to get old. And I had said, well, I used to want to live till at least 100, like that was my goal. I wanted to be here until I was at least 100, but only if I was fit and able and mentally there. And then when I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease and I became incapacitated and immobile, I then went, oh no, I don't want to live till I'm over 100, especially if I am not going to be able to be physically able to look after myself if I need somebody to lift and lay me. It is so, I spoke about this previously, like the shame that you feel, the insignificance, the dehumanised you feel, and it's not the other people making you feel that way, it's that loss of independence. And it of course depends on what your values are. I've spoken about that before in the podcast. What are your values? So if your values are having that freedom and independence and being able to lift and lay your own self, then that might be hell on earth for you. But if you're somebody that's like, no, I'd be alright if somebody was doing stuff for me as long as I'm mentally still there. Your values are your values, right? That's why it's important that you work out what yours are. And from that, the lesson that we can learn while we are able to is what can we do right now to make ourselves as healthy as we possibly can for as long as possible. And when you work your body, you're working your brain. When you're working your brain, if you're sitting on your arse, you're not working your body. So you need to get up and move around. And there are other studies, I don't have this one up to scan the details of it, but there are other studies of people who have been studying, and they compared one group who did physical activity on a regular basis versus a group who didn't do physical activity on a regular basis, and the people who did had better mental outcomes than the people who just sat and studied all the time. So it does pay, it is beneficial, and particularly if you're doing any cross-body work, so working right hand, left leg, which we do a lot in Pilates, that diagonal crossing of the body is excellent for your brain because your brain's having to work out how to move the opposite sides. It's really easy to move the same sides, but when we start switching over, your brain has more work to do, so it is highly, highly beneficial. And then the other part of this whole movement exploration, and the thing that really fascinated me when I was unwell in 2022, and I was bedbound for months, and I had an abscess in my rectum. That's what put me in the inability to actually stand upright. When I was in that space, noticing how everything connects, I'm a total dork. Absolutely thrive on the fact that I'm an absolute dork. But while this was happening, I was part of being able to cope with what it was that I was experiencing, was exploring the internal, like what is it I'm feeling, and it really then helps me when I come to teaching. So I know that the arch in your foot between the big toe and the heel and the pelvic floor and the diaphragm are all connected to each other. And I'm lying in bed and I've got this abscess in my rectum. Every time my pelvic floor contracted, pain shot up my back. It was so, it was like somebody punching you, and it was a really painful place every time. So I was then doing big diaphragmatic breaths to try and release the pain, but every time I was taking that diaphragmatic breath, the pain was shooting again. So I was then having to regulate my breathing and breathe as subtly and gently as I possibly could so that the diaphragm wasn't pushing down, so that the pelvic floor wasn't contracting, so that I wasn't in absolute agony every time I took a breath. And these sort of connections, when you are working with the body, if you've never had any pains and you don't have that thought process that I have of exploring, where does this come from, how does this work, blah blah blah, thinking about this, then you just take everything for granted. You just carry on as you were. As my mum says, I think far too much, but I only think too much about certain things and things I have questions about. And that was one of the questions I had, like, why does this pain keep shooting up my backside? How can I minimise this? Because I really didn't want to take painkillers as much as possible. I did end up taking some because after they'd done their emergency surgery and poked about in my arsehole, it was really painful for a good couple of weeks afterwards, so I had to take some painkillers initially. Anyway, once again, too much information. Yeah, so over that time when I was bedbound, that initial, right, okay, I have to do really gentle, subtle breathing to minimise my movement until I can get this abscess cleared. And then after that, because there was so much inflammation in my body, the fatigue was unreal. Like, even going from lying down to sitting myself up, other than it being painful because my bowel was so inflamed, it was exhausting just doing that. And I'm lying in my bed and I know that stagnation is going to slow the healing process. I need to have some movement in my body. My joints were inflamed, so that was making things difficult. My whole body ached. I started with wiggling my fingers, wiggling my toes, and taking the largest breath that I could at that time. And gradually, as that movement was happening, things were very slowly starting to clear. The inflammation was very slowly starting to come down. I was then able to make bigger movements. Even when I was in bed, I was trying to not stay in the one position for more than 20 minutes. So as it got to 20 minutes, it might have gone from me lying with my knees up towards my chest to lying out straight, to then lying on my back, to then lying over on my sides, knees up to the chest. So it was just very gentle as often as I could, and taking the breaths when I could, because that's where I was going to get some movement to help my healing. What I want you to think about is, how are you going to successfully bring more movement into your life? So one thing that I've already suggested: set a reminder, set an alarm, set a prompt, set a buzzer, something to go off every half an hour, every 20 minutes, just so that you can get up and move. Have that big full body stretch, have a few breaths, take a moment, go and get a cup of tea, go and get a glass of water. Because another thing that I was learning this morning while I was out on my walk, I had a podcast on, and one of my anatomy teachers was saying there, I talk about hydration and making sure that you get salt in your water so that it can hydrate you, blah blah. But a really part of that hydration is movement, because if you're sitting still all the time, pouring the water in, the water comes in one end, straight back out the other. You have to be standing up and moving for that fluids to get pulled all down your arms, all down the legs, into every tissue in the body, because the contractions of the muscle, that pumping action that's happening through the body, that's what's drawing the fluids in and out. So that needs to happen for that fluids to be able to move to every part of your body. So if you are sitting, you're thinking, yes, I've got this hydration thing sorted, but I still feel really thirsty all the time. Why is that? And you're sitting for long, prolonged periods of the time. Try this every 3 minutes, every 30 minutes, moving for 3 minutes while intermittently drinking your water, and see if that makes you feel better. I would put money on the fact that it will. And I've already said, if you are going to include structured exercise, structured activity, make it something that you enjoy, make it something that you look forward to. Get your whole body moving, every single joint, every single muscle, and listen to your body. Your body is really, really wise. It will tell you if it's not happy with a particular movement. It will tell you when it loves and adores particular movements, and it will also be shouting wee signals of, oh, I haven't moved for ages, my back's sore, my butt's sore, my knees are sore, my feet are sore, whatever it is that's sore, your body will be sending these signals to you. It's time for you to pay attention to those signals. If you're not sure what you are doing, or if you have an injury or are recovering from an illness, work with a coach that is qualified and experienced in working with whatever it is that you're dealing with, so that you can make sure that you're working at the right level and right intensity for you. So I'm possibly am the right person for you. If you think that I am, then get in touch. Book in for a consultation. Free 15-minute consultation. We'll have a quick chat, what's going on in your body, and I will let you know very quickly whether or not I can or can't help. I had a phone call from somebody yesterday who had seen my advert in a local magazine and said she was experiencing tingling in her hands and legs and it was getting really painful. Was it something I could help with? My first question to her was, have you seen a doctor about this? She hadn't seen the doctor yet. She was going to be seeing the doctor in the week coming up. So I said to her, get in touch with me after you've spoken to the doctor, because if it's a nerve problem or there's a blood clot or something somewhere, then adding movement in without having that checked out could be catastrophic, really. It could make things worse. So if her doctor says, yes, you're absolutely fine to do movement and exercise, then get them to put that in writing and we can go ahead. But otherwise, yeah, she really needed to get help. So it was a very quick call, very quick, what's going on, here's what I think, at this time I can't help you. So just because you're contacting me doesn't mean I'm going to suck you into my world. I'd love to suck you into my world, but it has to be in the right way. And if I don't think that I'm the right person for you, or I don't think that I can help in a useful way, I will be honest and tell you. I have other people who have phoned me and said, I've got arthritis, I've got scoliosis, I've got whatever it is that they've got, connective tissue disease, and I need to move my body more, can you help? Yep, let's come in, let's do a 1.5 hour session and see how we go on, see how we connect. And that particular client has been with me for nearly a year now, and she's about ready to start coming to Pilates classes. Amazing. Something that she said to me is, you have given me my life back. I didn't do the work. She does the work and then goes home and does her homework, and I do wee videos for her, and she does all that by herself, which is excellent, because you're always going to get more benefit if you do things over and above the individual sessions. I was there as her support, I was there as a guide, I've been there to be able to teach her. She has taken on the lessons. I'm absolutely delighted for her. One of my other ladies on my Pilates class, when was she on? Tuesday, and she's in her 70s. She'd spent Christmas and New Year in Aviemore and had been out hill walking. She regularly goes skiing as well. She came to me nearly 13 years ago. Was that about 13 years ago? Yeah, she's one of my first. Was my first long-term client, but she's still with me 13 years later. I mean, she hasn't been to class for a few weeks, and then if she's busy with life and then she gets along, she always says, oh, I've really missed being at class. Now she could do stuff by herself. She's been with me long enough to know, but she needs and likes the accountability of coming to the live online class. Everybody does things best. does things the way that works for them. One of my other long-term clients, I think she's been with me 10, 11, maybe even 12 years now, she has got both of her hips replaced, she has arthritis, she has osteoporosis, and regularly I get pictures from her of her doing handstands at the beach, or she's doing a silks acrobatics class or hanging out of an aerial hoop, which puts the fear of God into me, because I'm like, oh my God, she's going to break. But her attitude, and she is a hero of mine, her attitude is, I want to do all the things that I want to do while I am physically able to do them, because there's going to be a time where I'm not able to, and I want to know that I've at least tried and that I've at least done them. And I absolutely love that about her. And yeah, she inspires me every single day. Another important point for your movement, for your exercise, for whatever activity it is that you want to participate in, take in, is start where you are. Doesn't matter what anybody else in the class is doing. Like I say, I've got people come that have been to my class for 14 years, they still consider themselves beginners. I don't think so. But none of them compare themselves to anybody else in that class. They all have different physical things going on with them. When I have people in here in my studio for Pilates, everybody's got something different going on in their body, so everybody has a variation or an adaptation of the exercise to do, so that it's specific to them and it's correct for them. Because if everybody tries to keep up with everybody else, somebody's going to end up injured, or somebody's going to end up feeling like they're a failure, they're not good enough. And it's not about comparison, it's about where are you right now. And if you are somebody who's sitting 8 hours a day, because that's what your job does, start with the moving every 30 minutes for 3 minutes. If you try and go straight out and run a 5k, there's a good chance you're going to end up injuring yourself, or not managing to complete it and feeling like shit because you pushed yourself too hard, too fast. So think about the condition of your body right now. What is that first step that you can take? I think about me lying in my bed. First step for me was wiggling my fingers. Next step for me was turning every 20 minutes. Next step for me was being able to answer my front door. There's only 8 steps, like stairs up to my front door. That was a killer for me for a while. So start where you are and gradually build on what it is that you want to build on. Now I'm going to add in here something for the ladies, the menopausal women who are starting to gain weight and not understanding why, because they're not eating any more than they used to, or they've started exercising more but discovering that they're putting on more weight. Now what I've heard many women in this space say, particularly in this age group, that when they start doing more, they're doing more cardio. They're going out for longer runs, and they're going to more classes at the gym, and they're just pushing that wee bit harder, They're doing HIIT classes, they're doing really spin classes, sweaty, and they're getting heavier rather than seeing the results that they think that they should be seeing. So when you have these shifts in your hormones, cortisol, which is one of the stress hormones that gets released, when that starts to increase, that's what causes belly fat. When you do high intensity exercise, when you go out and do big cardio workouts, you are pushing more of that cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream, which is going to make you hold even more fat around your belly because you're putting yourself into a more stressed state. For many women going into that menopausal space, especially if you're somebody who's already very active, you might need to do more things to calm your system down. Shorter workouts, more focused on strength training, so making sure that you're building strong, dense muscles. Pilates and yoga, excellent, because that helps calm your nervous system while moving your full body, while focusing on your breath, while bringing down those stress levels, bringing down those stress hormones. Those are things to consider. So if you are coming into that menopausal age, if you are coming into that from having done no activity at all, then yes, you will benefit from definitely a mix of exercise, but be aware that you don't want to go all in, all guns blazing, and cause more stress in your body, more stress that's going to drive those cortisol levels up and do you more harm than good. I think that's all I want to say today. Is it? No, let me see. There is. I want to just quickly check. Yeah, there we go. So I'm just going to run through very quickly all the benefits of doing activity and exercise regularly. So you get the physical health benefits, heart benefits, weight management, the musculoskeletal benefits, so strength, flexibility, bone density, essential for aging. Your metabolic health, so blood sugar regulation is really important. As we age, particularly as women, we can become less sensitive to insulin, and you want to be more sensitive to insulin, and having good strong muscles is one way of being able to help regulate those blood sugars. It's going to reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes. So if you are holding excess weight in your body, you definitely want to get those weight measurements down and the muscle mass up to help balance out those sugar levels. Your metabolism, again, as we age, metabolism starts to slow, not as slow as some people claim. It is minuscule, but it is something to be aware of. Again, I'm going to go back to these menopausal women. A lot of them start to cut what they're eating down into drastic numbers, and it might not be, obviously you need to do a food diary to see what it is that you're actually eating, to see the volume, to see the load, to see how many calories you're actually consuming. And I know I've said don't count calories, but it can weigh in. Like one of the girls that I do some work with, she talks to her clients a lot about weigh out your portions just to get an idea of what portion size is, because very often we don't know what portion sizes are. So when it comes to managing your weight, you need to know exactly what it is that you are eating and what exactly are those portion sizes that you're eating, and then manage them and regulate them first. And if you're still not losing weight, then you need to work with a coach to work out what's going on, because it might be that you need to tweak your diet. It might be that you need to increase protein and fibre, vital for building strength and having healthy bowels. Bowel cancer is on the rise, particularly in young people, which is quite scary. But increase your fibre, and that's going to reduce your risk of colon cancer, and it's going to improve your metabolic health because it's feeding those gut microbes. Those gut microbes are going to chew up the foods, release off the chemicals that we need them to release off, produce what we need them to produce to have our healthy body. Vitally important. Your mental health. Lots of people dealing with anxiety at the moment, and I've spoken about this on previous podcasts about anxiety can be from a few different things. It can be your thought process, it can be your gut health, but it can also be excess energy that needs to be burned off. So if you're not moving enough, then that build up of hormones that sit in your body, the adrenaline, the cortisol, if they're not getting burned off, that's going to make you feel anxious. And it's a physiological response which then goes into your head, oh my god, there's something wrong with me, and that then fuels it, and it becomes this perpetuating circle of wah. Stress reduction, it's when we exercise, like doing the yoga, the Pilates, the gentle movement, we can reduce our levels of cortisol. When we're doing the high intensity and high, really long endurance, that can actually increase your cortisol levels. So we want sometimes to have a burst of the cortisol, but we also want to be able to get that to reduce back down. So if you're in a really stressed job and you're buzzing all day, and then you go into the gym and you're buzzing, you're not going to get those lowering cortisol benefits. So you get them from doing something that helps you down regulate. Brain health, I have already spoken about the improvements to your brain health from doing exercise, particularly cross-body exercise, gets the neurotransmitters releasing and firing up, which is good to minimise your risk of dementia and Alzheimer's. Immune system support, I talk all the time about your lymphatic system. I have even talked about it in today's podcast. You need to move your body to get your lymph flushing out. The sweat is part of that process. So to detoxify, that then helps regulate and moderate your immune function and reduces the risk of illness. It improves the quality of your sleep. So if you go to bed knackered because you have burned through the energy that you needed to burn through the day, your body will conk out deep sleep all day long. If you're still buzzing when you go to bed, you're not going to get that good quality sleep. So definitely helps with your improvement of sleep. Social connection, if it's something that you do as a group activities can be really good for that sort of thing, which we know that social connection is very good for our well-being, our health, because we feed off of other people. Exercise and activity helps longevity. Spoken about this earlier on in the podcast, where, you know, if you're doing exercise to keep your body physically strong, keeping your brain mentally well, then you can have a long and healthy life, and that's what we're looking for, because most of us do not want to have to be lifted and laid. There is a lot of links between exercise and the disease prevention, cardiovascular disease, certain cancers, certain neurodegenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, dementia, reduced symptoms in chronic health conditions. So if you've already, like me, got chronic health conditions diagnosed, doing low to moderate exercise helps reduce the risk of flares and the severity of flares when you are in a well state. Now, I know when I went into that flare in 2022, between my previous flare in 2019 and 2022, I hadn't really done, I'd been teaching my classes, but I wasn't doing anything in addition to that. I wasn't in the gym, I wasn't doing any strength training, I wasn't doing anything else. So when that third flare hit, it completely wiped me out, and I believe that was a contributing factor to it, that I wasn't well, which is one of the reasons that I'm so motivated to be as well as I possibly can be in the recovery from that last flare. Pain management, if you are somebody who lives with chronic pain, it can be tempting to sit still to try and manage the pain, but actually moving your body, like people with fibromyalgia can be in pain while they're doing exercise, but they know that after that it actually helps reduce some of that pain, some of that inflammation, and help some of their pain symptoms. People with rheumatoid arthritis, unless you're in a flare, it's going to help your joints. So being able to get moving when you're not in a flare is really, really beneficial. Build your self-esteem and confidence. The sense of achievement, to know that you actually did what you said you were going to do. You got up and went and did whatever the workout was. You went for the run, you went for the walk, you met up with whoever it was. That sense of achievement, that little high five to yourself, that pat in the back, that well done, is so good for your own self-esteem, for your own self-confidence. You improve your body image. So when you start to get stronger, you'll hold yourself taller. And part of Pilates training is, how can we stand tall without it being a fight with the body, so that's where everything falls into place. And being able to move, and when you stand tall, that's when people have more respect for you. If you're slumping about, people have a lot less respect for you. So being tall, being open in your posture, it's good for your physiology, but it's also good for your confidence, and that's connected to your mental health. Like if you're down here, can you try and be happy when you're down here? No, I don't think so. When you're up here, can you try and be sad when you're up here? No, I don't think so. If you need or want help with your movement, please do reach out to me. I am jenwilson.com. If you know somebody that needs to incorporate some movement into their life, please share this podcast with them. Make sure that wherever you're listening, you're liking, you're subscribing. You know the drill, the algorithms, the gatekeepers have the keys to the gate. They say who gets seen, who does not get seen, who gets heard, who does not get heard, and I just want to help. So if you can, please, with gratitude from the bottom of my soul, from the soles of my feet, please, please like, follow, share, or comment, whatever. If you've got any questions, please do drop me a comment or message, wherever it is that you're listening, and I will see you on the next podcast. Thank you so much.